Hey guys, what is up? It is me, Pagey, here once again with another video on Superman and Lois Season 4. And this is going to be my review for Episode 2 for this season, otherwise entitled A World Without. And that episode name is a good summation of the episode because, boy, were they multiple people feeling what it's like to be in a world without Superman. But of course, spoiler if you've not watched the episode, I'm going to be talking about everything that happens in this episode, all the big reveals, and all the things that made me question, okay, well, what the hell are you going to do after this then? How are we going to figure out this issue? So, yeah, if you're not watching the episode, go away because spoilers coming. But if you have watched the episode, be sure to let me know in the comments section down below your various opinions on what you thought of the episode, any theories and predictions moving forward, and what'd you give the episode out of 10? Let me know. And of course, if you enjoy the video, want to drop a like, it takes 2 seconds, especially if you enjoyed the episode, be sure to drop a like. So last episode shouldn't be too far away from your memory because of course it was a 2-episode premiere, whether you watched them back to back or kept them separate a bit. I probably kept about 2 hours separate from watching each thing. I was actually going to upload my episode 1 review like straight after episode 2 ended, but as you know it, in today's society, my computer just decided to go, you know what, update, and it just dragged on too long, and I thought, you know what, I'm just going to upload these 2 videos probably within 3 or 4 hours of each other the next day. So my episode 1 review probably only came out a handful of hours ago if you're watching this as soon as the video goes up. But at the end of last episode, essentially, Superman's dead. In a pretty dramatic way as well. It's a bit more gnarly than I thought it would be, but it adds to a bit of the story and the expedition, if you want to put it, heading into this episode, with Doomsday not dying himself, which completely differs from the story from the comics, because usually it's pretty much a kamikaze situation in regards to the comics. They both die. Superman dies, killing Doomsday. So he's still alive under the control of Lex Luthor, which is very interesting, but he also brought something a bit extra back to Lex, and this is pretty much how he killed Superman. He punched and then ripped his goddamn heart out. So that's in Lex Luthor's possession as we start this episode and left last episode. But overall, this episode was a fantastic continuation of episode 1, and I can 100% see why they made the decision to put these episodes back to back on the same night. I think it worked really well. At the same time, they easily could have been on separate weeks if they wanted to. I don't think the episodes are like holding hands, if that makes sense, but I like the fact they were back to back because it adds into, if we left episode 1 thinking, oh, they're going to get their heart back, and then it was all pretty much like how we end this episode off, maybe the week difference would have been like, oh, okay, well, I don't know about that, but having them back to back on the same night, and then how this episode ends now makes it a much more interesting way to see what happens in episode 3 or 4 or whenever certain things play out. So I think back to back was the right move, though I was sort of curious how connected that would be, but I'm pretty happy with the result. But anyway, let's just get into the breakdown of the episode. So we pick up in this episode focusing on the Smallville residents and their POV, or point of view if you want to be full, their reaction and stuff to the death of Superman and what's happening there. And we do get Lana clearing the town out, and that's not just because of like, oh, let them grieve. It's so they can try and get Superman out there into safety and stuff like that. Though I was wondering, would everyone clear? And there's a bit at or like, would anyone pick up on it, if that makes sense? And we do get a bit of a carry on later in the episode in regards to the fallout from that. But we do have Jordan, when it clears, taking, because he has to use his own powers, of course, taking his father's body to the fortress, and it's not this like simple fix where like the fortress can just go, okay, yep, you're all good, you're healed. It doesn't work like that, obviously. With Jordan being given the pretty simple explanation of like, like he's missing his heart. I don't know if there's much we can do here, but while Jordan's away doing this, we do get Lana and Sarah arriving at the Kens to console them, essentially. Now, Lana says she will try to block the sale of the hotel to Luthor because he's not put it under his, like, oh, Lex Luthor's buying the hotel. It's under one of not a pseudonym, it's under like a, whatever they call, another company that's like a couple of steps away from really being connected to him. And it's really hard to connect that it was Luthor that, bought this hotel. Now, she says she's going to do this despite Lois sort of saying like, hey, I don't want you involved and stuff. But Lana's like, well, it's something I can do. So she's going to continue to try and do it, but it's obviously going to put her in the crosshairs. Now, Jonathan does confront Jordan about what he is hiding, because when Jordan arrives back, he pretty much gives a simple thing of like, oh yeah, they're going to try and do something at the fortress. And Jonathan can just tell that Jordan's not telling the truth. And then this is when Jordan reveals that they actually have to get Superman's heart back to even try and save his life. They could get it back and it might not work, but to have any sort of attempt at bringing him back to life, they need his heart. So this is obviously a big thing and sort of a motivator for Jordan and like a mission for Jordan throughout this episode, because also he wouldn't know that Lex Luthor had that chamber thing to put the heart in. He just might think that his dad's heart's just sitting on top of a desk or something, slowly rotting away. Like he has no idea what's happening with the heart at this point in time. So it ends up this, we got to get it quickly. And we see the first step of this when Luthor's meeting with these like Luthor Corp partners or Luthor Corp like employees, like the people running it at the time, just to sort of figure out what they're going to do with the company and how to sort of like start this next stage of Luthor Corp now that Lex Luthor's actually finally out of prison. And Lex Luthor's like, well, I sort of want to stay in Smallville for a bit. And they're like, you want to stay here? What's going on here? Why do you want to stay here? And there's like dodgy hotel that's probably got rats and cockroaches all through it. But this is when Jordan does rock up demanding his father's heart back. And, you know, Jordan's pretty intimidating at this point, but Lex just fires back pretty damn quickly with his own intimidation factor. And, you know, sort of like giving away that he knows who he is and everything like that, which sort of makes Jordan scared. But also at the same time, Jordan can't really do anything because Lex can say, well, no, I'm not giving him back. What are you going to do? Kill me in front of all these people? Like, I thought you were meant to be a hero. So, you know, that's been a big thing with Jordan in his powers, whether it's from season 1 or in season 4 where we are now. He doesn't really think before doing things. He doesn't really, you know, rationalize things. So that's a big thing for his journey going forward. I don't know if he's ever going to do it, but I think he will eventually, or at least it's going to be, he's going to try and meet, whether it's the rational side of himself halfway or just something along those lines. But I think we'll progress in some form there. Whether it's fully, I don't know, but at least there should be some form of development, hopefully throughout the season. Now, Lois is actually about to send out the article about Superman's death before she's stopped by Jonathan. And this actually makes me wonder, like, will that ever get out? Is the death of Superman going to be like a very contained thing within Smallville? I do wonder if that's what, because they were hinting that Smallville's going to be a big character this season, and I wonder if that's one way they play into it, that like this whole thing of the death of Superman is really kept within the Smallville people and just the people that were there that night. Like it's not like the whole of Smallville was out and about when Doomsday brought back Superman's body with his heart missing. It was only like, you know, about like a dozen people or something like that. So then again, it was only like a handful of people that actually saw it. There were people there that ran away. So I think there's maybe only like 6 people that actually probably know that Superman died. So I am wondering if it's ever going to get out there. I don't think it will. And maybe that like the Jonathan stopping that article is a sign of that, like the death of Superman or this, you know, absence of Superman at the very least because he's missing his goddamn heart is more of a contained thing. I feel like that's what's going to happen there. But anyway, you know, Jonathan sort of stopping Lois here allows her to actually see Lex Luthor return back to the hotel. So as you'd expect, Lois is not happy. She confronts Luthor in his hotel. This adding to the fire already, but this also allows Luthor to reveal that Jordan came at him. It's like, hey, you're not the first member of your family to come at me today and with some threats. Your son with the powers came as well, and this also leads to Luthor revealing that he knows that, you know, Jordan is Superboy, thus that Superman is Lois's husband and the father of the boys. So this doesn't please Lois too much that information is out there to not only Luthor, but potentially could be out there to the world, even, you know, in the days to come, potentially, if Luthor chooses to. But now that gives Luthor a big playing card that he knows all that information. So Jordan, what are you doing, brother? Think before you act, please, for the love of God. Now, we do have Smallville resident Chuck, good old Chuck. He actually comes to Lana about the Kents and Superman, and with him putting 2 and 2 together. And it wasn't necessarily because he saw Jordan fly away with Superman or anything like that. It was because he lost his wife to sickness or something like that. And it was just like the general I can't remember what it was, but he lost his wife previously, and just the reaction to Lois and the boys to Superman's dead body, he recognized it because he went through the same thing. So he put 2 and 2 together, but he chose that he's going to keep it a secret, which is a good thing because it seems like he's the only one that knows it. But yeah, so good on, how good is Chuck? Good on Chuck. Now we do actually have Jordan able to hear his father's heartbeat, and when that happened, I was like, oh, that seems like it's not going to be legit, but it might be, who knows. So Jordan goes after it despite Jonathan's warnings, though at this time, Luthor is at the diner in Smallville. So I was wondering, okay, well, maybe it's not too much of an issue. It can't be a trap, surely. So that's happening. But at the same time, because Luthor's in the diner, no one's in the hotel room, Jonathan's like, oh, well, I'll go up there with Sarah covering for him. So Jonathan's in Luthor's hotel, but Luthor actually leaves the diner while he's up there, but he is saved by Lana because Luthor's not leaving there to go back to the hotel. He's leaving there to go to where Jordan is. So Jordan arrives at a shipping yard with Luthor Core cargo and armed guards there. Jordan takes out some of them and he thinks he's hearing the heartbeat, but what do we see? It's a goddamn Superman action figure that's sort of giving off that heartbeat, which I guess was sort of fitting. So it's almost like a saw trap. It's almost not a saw trap. It's like, I don't know, is it something the Riddler would do? I don't know. Maybe, I don't know. Something like that. Maybe it's something that like Jesse Eisenberg's Lex Luthor would do. I'm not too sure. Something along those lines. But he is taken out by some kryptonite weaponry despite his best attempts at it. Oh, actually, he gets taken out by kryptonite weapons, but then gets up and takes out the people, but then he gets taken out by like the sound device, the sound triggering thing. And it's Luthor that's there. He's gotten there quickly from the diner. I don't know if did he get a piggyback on Doomsday? I wonder if Doomsday would do that. Like, hey, fly me over here. We might actually see that, maybe. I'm not too sure. But essentially, Jordan is just begging to get his dad's heart back, and it's there. It's in that box, and Luthor takes it out and crushes it under his foot. All squishy and bloody and yucky. He squishes under there. Now, I guess the big thing is that really Superman's heart? I think so. I mean, you have to. It was in the same little box thing. You'd have to say it is, but you can never know. I mean, like we could start next week's episode and 2 minutes in, then the real heart's in possession somewhere else in Luthor's, wherever it is, in safe, like a safe or in his hotel room, something like that. It could easily be there. We don't know. But shortly after this, Jordan is found in the Gazette. He's upset because he realizes that he did act irrationally, and Jonathan is very angry at Jordan for going rogue, though Lois is trying to like calm down, like don't go after him. This is clearly going to continue next episode, because I remember that there was a scene in the trailer where there was those two fighting, like going at each other in like the barn, like the under the barn area where Superman's ship used to be, or I guess where it still is. And that hasn't been in episode 1 or 2, so I'd assume that that's probably next week, and after Jonathan's able to get Jordan with him on his own, he'll unleash a bit more, especially as like maybe more things unravel. But one big thing is that Luthor was like looking at his stuff and he knows someone was in his room. So while he was obviously going to deal with Jordan, Jonathan was in there, and Jonathan had to try and hide quickly because he saw someone coming, though it was Lana, but he left quickly, so there wasn't any time to sort of fix up any sort of things that he might have touched. So Luthor knows someone was in his room, but he also finds out that General Lane is the only one who knows where his daughter Elizabeth is. That's what Amanda McCoy tells him. So you would have to assume that General Lane is back on the radar, and Lex Luthor is going to be coming to approach him sometime soon, most likely sometime in episode 3. But we do actually have the Kent family going to the Fortress of Solitude to say goodbye to Superman. So could say goodbye to Clark, could say goodbye to, Lois to her husband, and, Jonathan and Jordan to their dad. And we do find out that there's a form of Superman or Kal-El now in the fortress, like his mother is there. So we see Superman in a different suit. I thought it was like, is that an updated suit? But I think it's just more like a formal kryptonite outfit. Like if he was on Krypton, that's what he would wear. But yeah, he's in that form and he'll be in that fortress all the time to communicate, but that's it. That's where his form is. So Jordan can go there on his own and talk to him. And I think we'll probably see that while Superman's still like quote unquote dead, aka missing his heart, aka asleep. So I'm very interested to see if there's any sort of like, because you'd have to assume it's like it'd be like a different form of like a Kryptonian sort of like person in there, because he has that experience on Earth and stuff like that. But I'm interested to see if there's any major scenes with like Jordan or Jonathan or Lois with that form of Kal-El before he comes back to life, whenever that might be. So that's an interesting thing. They'll have to wait and see. But it does seem that we might be getting like a proper funeral, because Lana and Sarah were also reacting to the fact that he's probably not coming back because his heart was crushed. So be interesting to see what the whole reaction there, because there's a couple of people we haven't met yet after these 2 episodes. We haven't seen John Henry or Natalie, we haven't seen Kyle or Chrissy, but we've seen Lana and Sarah. So those people still have to react to this news if they don't know yet. So that might be in episode 3, but we'll wait and see. But yeah, overall another great episode. I think I preferred episode 1 just because of like the pacing and everything, but this was a perfect complementary piece to episode 1. Yeah, I really no issues with the episode, just that I think I'd prefer episode 1. I mean, I could say they're pretty even, but I think slightly I prefer episode 1, just because it also had a lot of action and stuff with Superman and the culmination of all the stuff that was set up at the end of last season and the cliffhanger and everything like that. But yeah, great 2 episodes to start it off, and specifically a great second episode. And I can't wait to see what comes next week. with episode 3. But yeah, guys, thanks for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, it'd be awesome if you could drop a like on it to show support. Let me know in the comment section down below your various opinions on this episode. What'd you love? Did you hate anything? Maybe. What'd you hate? What'd you give it out of 10? A 10 out of 10, 9.5, or a 2.7? I don't know. Let me know. And of course, if you are new to the channel, make sure to subscribe. And I'll catch you guys later. Goodbye.